Hello, and welcome to the Urban Classroom. Hi, my name is Mrs. Briggs, and I want to thank you for joining me today in the Urban Classroom. Today, we're going to continue Unit 6, which is the Early Republic. We're going to be looking at a few more presidents. The lesson previously, before this one, was George Washington. And so this lesson today, part 2, is going to be about President John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and James Monroe. It's a lot of information to cover, so let's get started. Okay, let's continue with President John Adams. He is president number 2. He will serve from 1797 to the year 1800. So John Adams, he was a politician, he's a writer, he's a lawyer, he's a diplomat, he knows about the government. He is one of the founding fathers. Now, he played a very key role in the American Revolution. He helped also negotiate the Treaty of Paris of 1783, and that ended the American Revolutionary War. Adams, he also was very important in the Constitutional Convention, the one that happened in 1787 in Philadelphia, because of the weakness of the Article of Confederation. It had to be fixed, and so there was a convention held in Philadelphia to try to resolve the issues. But unfortunately, the delegates at the convention were not able to resolve the issues with the Article of Confederation, and that's how we got the U.S. Constitution, a stronger document. John Adams, he was President Washington's vice president when Washington was president, and he also served as an ambassador, the first U.S. ambassador to Great Britain. So John Adams has a lot of experience with the government, and when he becomes president after Washington, he realizes that yes, there are still a lot of problems that these European countries are having. We got issues with international wars, there's issues with treaty violations, and we also have American ships being targeted, and the property on the ship is being taken. And this is an issue that John Adams have to address when he is president of the United States. Right. One issue that happened with John Adams when he was president is that American ships were being taken advantage of. You know, you had different countries would board the ships or confiscate the goods on the ships, and Adams, he just couldn't let that happen. He has to talk to the French leaders to talk about this problem with attacking these American ships. You can't do that. So Adams, he wants to set up this meeting. He wants to talk to the foreign minister. The foreign minister is like an ambassador. This is the person who's in charge of managing business affairs with other countries. So Washington says, I'm sorry, so Adams says he wants to meet with the foreign minister. And he sends out his diplomats to go and talk to the French government about stopping all these attacks on the American ships. Well, unfortunately, there were 3 French officials. They tried to bribe the United States. They said that the American diplomats could not meet with the French foreign minister until $250,000 was paid. Well, that's a problem because you're saying I can't have a conversation, I can't talk to a person unless I pay. I got to pay you. So President John Adams, he didn't like the situation. He called it the XYZ affair. Now, the reason why he said XYZ, because there were 3 people, and I guess he just didn't have time to be remembering their names about these 3 French officials who was trying to bribe America. So he just called them like XYZ, person X, person Y, and person Z. So it became known as the XYZ affairs. Now, in response to this conflict, the United States had to protect itself. So it established the Department of the Navy. And America started building warships. We did fight with France. It was an undeclared war. Okay, it was an official war. And the conflict will get resolved. It will come to an end, and international trade laws have to be established so that you could prevent future problems with other countries. So the issue with France will get resolved, but it was an unfortunate event because France used to be our allies, but you remember with Washington, Washington refused to help France during their American Revolution, so he got a little bit of bad blood. There's another situation that President Adams has to face. This situation was about fear. It was the fear that France had spies in the American government, and it was fear about France preparing to attack and invade the United States. So President Adams, he said, we got to do something about this. We're going to have some strict guidelines for people who want to become immigrants, who want to become citizens in America. We're going to have some strict guidelines for immigrants. And this document, the paperwork, was called the Alien and Sedition Act. So based on this document called the Alien and Sedition Act, if any person was caught saying something bad about the American government or saying something bad about President Adams, then you could get arrested. And Adams will have you deported because he said he's not going to tolerate having spies in America from France. He's not going to do it. So this very controversial issue with watching people and if they're speaking out against America, to arrest them and to deport them, that's known as the Alien and Sedition Act. This creates a problem between the two political parties because John Adams, he is the president, but he's a Federalist. And then you had the vice president, who was Thomas Jefferson. Remember, he used to be the Secretary of State under Washington's cabinet. Well, now he is the vice president. And so he is a Democratic Republican. So the issue between the president and the vice president, between Adams and Jefferson, is going to continue all the way up into the 1800 election. Okay. There's some things that you already should know about Thomas Jefferson. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. He did want to help farmers. He was the one who went with Benjamin Franklin over to France and asked for help during the American Revolutionary War. He also opposed that national bank. He doesn't like them, and because of the argument he had between himself, Jefferson, and with Hamilton, we had the birth of the political parties. Okay, so George Washington was president one, first one. Then you had John Adams. Now your third president is Thomas Jefferson. When Thomas Jefferson became president, America was very concerned before the actual inauguration of Jefferson because power belonged to the Federalists because that's what Adams was. John Adams was a Federalist. But now power is going to be transferred to the Democratic Republicans. That's what Jefferson was. So people were afraid that it's going to be violent, that there's going to be attacks and people are going to get hurt and that Adams not going to go peacefully. They thought it was going to be a big problem. But actually, it wasn't. It was a peaceful transition in power from Federalist to Democratic Republican. And this period is called the Revolution of 1800. It was a peaceful transfer of power. Now, when Thomas Jefferson becomes the third president of the United States, he also will set a precedent he will set a precedent by having an inaugurational parade. So Jefferson will be the first one. He will get on his horse and he'll ride the horse in front of the White House down that Pennsylvania Avenue area. And after that, you have presidents afterwards have an inaugural parade where they're in their cars and they wave to the people, and the family come with them, and it's just a celebration to say this is the new person in charge. Okay, so that was President Jefferson entering into the office as the third president. Now, while Jefferson is in office, he got to make a few changes, because before the 12th Amendment, when there was a presidential election, whoever won the Electoral College, they became the president. And whoever came in second place became the vice president. So this was a problem because you had Jefferson, who won the Electoral College and became president, but he didn't really like his vice president. That was a man named Aaron Burr. He didn't like him. And so he said, we got to do something about this, because the president should be able to pick his own vice president, not just because of the ballot. So the 12th Amendment was approved by Congress, and this amendment, it allows the president and the vice president to run together. So the president gets to choose the person that he or she wants to serve as the vice president. They have to run together on the same ballot. We don't do first place and second place anymore. That would create a lot of problems, especially if you have people from two different political parties. It creates a problem. All right, so now that Jefferson is in office, he has domestic policies that he has to make, and he also has some foreign policies that he has to make. So Jefferson, he is interested in reducing the size of the Army and the Navy. Jefferson did not fight in the military. Most of his time, he was in France during the American Revolutionary War. Jefferson also wants to decrease military spending, government spending. So the government spends too much money. We got to cut down so we stay out of debt. Jefferson wants to move west, but he says we need to do it very slowly. There's a lot of issues still with Native Americans. A lot of land still belongs to France, and so a lot of land also belongs to Spain. So Jefferson said it's best that we move west, but do it slowly. One of Jefferson's major accomplishment will be the Louisiana Purchase, and this will happen in the year 1803. Now, for 8th grade U.S. history, that's a very important date that you must remember, 1803, and that is the Louisiana Purchase. Well, if you look at the map, the area that's in the purple, that was called the Louisiana Territory. Okay, so it's not just Louisiana State that's next to Texas. No, Louisiana was a large amount of land, and it belonged to France. So at first, Thomas Jefferson, he just wanted to negotiate with France so that America could use the Mississippi River, because rivers are very important for transportation and for trade. But at this time, France was involved in their own wars and their own conflict, and they needed the money. So a deal was made. Napoleon Bonaparte, he said, if you give us $15 million, then France will give you the Louisiana Territory. It's yours. Now, that land is a lot. It goes from the Mississippi River all the way up towards the Rocky Mountains. It will double the size of America. This was a great deal. But here's the problem. Jefferson don't know if that's legal. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that America could buy land. Now, Jefferson, he gonna do it anyways. He said, this is a good deal. We can't pass this deal up. We gotta buy that land. And so America pays $15 million to France. And we get the area that is called the Louisiana Territory. Now, some people said that Jefferson, he's a hypocrite. He was arguing with Alexander Hamilton, talking about what you cannot do with that national bank. But then when it was time for him to do something as president, he did it anyway. The Louisiana Purchase will give America a lot more land. Again, it doubles the size of America. So now Jefferson wants to know, okay, so what's available over there? What kind of resources are in the Louisiana Territory? He doesn't know. Friend said, I don't know. Just send somebody over there and find out for yourself. So President Jefferson is going to hire a group, and there are two people that are very important that will lead this expedition. They're Lewis and Clark. So you have a man named Meriwether Lewis and a man named William Clark. They are going to get a team of men to help them explore this area from the Mississippi River all the way up to the Rocky Mountains. They have to record information. They have to make maps. This is area that is uncharted. So Americans had not even been in that area before. They don't know what to expect. Now, one of the men that worked for Lewis and Clark, he they said that he's married to a lady named Sacagawea. But Sacagawea at the time, she's a girl. She's like probably 14 years old. And during this time in history, Native American would sell like enemies of another tribe to another tribe. They would sell people. It was enslavement. And so Sacagawea it was believed that she was sold to one of the men that were a member of Lewis and Clark's team. Now, she's going to be very helpful to the team because she knows that area. Her people, she has some people that lived in that area. She's from the Shoshone tribe, and she's going to serve as an interpreter. She's going to be a guide. When the group starts running out of food, she'll be able to talk to an indigenous group and help them get the resources that they need so that they could survive. If it weren't for Sacagawea, I don't know if Lewis and Clark would have been successful because she was really instrumental, very important in their success. So that's Sacagawea. All right, now there's going to be a problem that Jefferson's going to have to face. It has to do with impressment. Impressment, this vocabulary word is about kidnapping. See, British sailors, they would board American ships, say that they're looking for deserters. A deserter is a person who was in the military, but like they didn't want to be in the military anymore, so they ran away. And so some of those deserters would end up on an American ship, like working on the ship. Well, when Britain would stop the ships, they searching for those deserters, and sometimes they find the deserter and sometimes they didn't. But here's the problem. The problem is that the British sailors, they start kidnapping American sailors and forcing them to join the British Navy. You kidnapping people and forcing them to join the military in your country. Well, that ain't right. Something got to be done about this. Something has to be done about kidnapping American sailors. You can't do that. So Jefferson is trying to figure out, well, what do I do about it? Now, remember, Jefferson was not in the military. He did not serve in the military, did not fight. So he's trying to think of a better way, how to use his brain, how to use his mind to solve this problem with this kidnapping stuff, with this impressment. So Jefferson comes up with the Trade Embargo Act. The year is 1807. Basically, what Jefferson is saying that, okay, since y'all coming over here kidnapping our sailors and you're not acting right, you're being rude and disrespectful, well, we're not going to trade with you anymore. We can't do business together. How are we going to trade when you kidnapping our people? That's not right. So no more trading. This strategy was supposed to hurt the European countries because America wasn't going to do business with them anymore. It's part of the foreign policy. But it ended up actually hurting America. See, Jefferson, he was just trying to avoid another war when he signed that Embargo Act and said that Americans can't trade with the European countries. But now, since Americans can't trade with European countries, they're losing money. If I'm from the South and I have cotton, I used to sell that cotton to Great Britain. Now I can't sell that cotton to Great Britain anymore. I got a problem. How am I going to feed my family? How am I going to pay my bills? It's a problem. So it ended up actually backfiring and hurting a lot of Americans, and it's going to decrease the American economy, the way people make money. So that was a Trade Embargo Act that says we're not going to trade with these European countries because we're mad. We're mad about impressment. That's the kidnapping of the sailors. Now we're going to move on to our fourth president, which is going to be James Madison. There's some things you should know already about James Madison. James Madison is the one who wrote the Bill of Rights. Remember during the Constitutional Convention when the Anti-Federalists said that they don't want to be abused by the government, and then George Mason was saying we need a Bill of Rights. We need to know about how we are protected. Well, Madison is the one who works on the Bill of Rights. Madison is also known as the father of the U.S. Constitution because he was the one at the meeting that was recording a lot of the information of what was happening at the Constitutional Convention. So we give him the credit as the father of the Constitution. Now, Madison, he liked the idea of political parties. So he disagreed with Washington about political parties. He says they're necessary, they're natural, we need them. And Madison would be considered to be a Democratic Republican, so he shared some of the same views as Jefferson did. And he did not like that national bank, just like Jefferson did not like that national bank. So the next president, number 4, will be James Madison. Now, Madison, he has to deal with this issue with impressment. He's like, really? You just gonna kidnap American sailors and force them to join the military? Oh no, we're not having that. We're not having that. So James Madison, he wanted to use military force against Great Britain. He said, we can't have you being disrespectful. You can't just kidnap our sailors. You just can't use impressment like that. So Madison, he is ready to fight. So that takes us to the War of 1812. Now remember, a president does not have the power to declare war. That is the power of Congress to declare war. And you can go back to Unit 5 and look at the U.S. Constitution and watch that video. It'll tell you about the 3 branches of government and the powers of each branch. Well, Congress agrees to go to war. Now, here's a problem. During this time, Canada was like a colony of Great Britain. Okay, Canada was not an independent country. It belonged to Great Britain. But somebody talked Madison into the idea that America should take Canada from Great Britain because Great Britain, they're fighting some other war, and it's like they distracted. Let's take this land away from them. This is an issue. This is an issue. America was trying to take Canada. So this is a serious problem during the War of 1812. Now it's called the War of 1812 because that's the year that it started in, 1812. Well, when Canada belonged to Great Britain, and Great Britain found out that the Americans tried to take Canada, Great Britain said, we're going to get you back. We're going to get you back because we're going to burn your White House down. How about that? And that's what the soldiers did. The British soldiers, they went to Washington, D.C., and they burned down the White House. Now, the president's wife had been there a few days earlier. Her name is Dolly Madison. And Dolly Madison, she's given a lot of credit because when she found out that those British soldiers were going to be coming and that they may burn the White House down, she wanted to make sure that very important documents, very important paintings or furniture and artifacts were removed away from the house, especially this one picture of George Washington. She didn't want them to be disrespectful and like tear the picture up or burn it or rip holes in it and stuff. So she had the servants move the items into a safe place. So we give her a lot of credit because, you know, she could have been acting like a crazy woman talking about, oh, they coming, they got fired. She could have been like that, but she wasn't. So we have to respect her as the First Lady. That's called FLOTUS, First Lady of the United States. And she was just calm and she was just brave. She was a boss and she just made sure that artifacts and paintings were saved and not destroyed by the British when they burned down the White House. Now, tell me, does this sound familiar to you? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? Have you ever heard that before? How about the part that says, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air? This may sound familiar to you because you might hear it like at a basketball game, football game. And today, though, in our society, we're having a lot of problems with this poem. It was a poem at first, but it's going to become a song. It's called the National Anthem. And there's a lot of controversy about the National Anthem today. You've seen probably on TV with issues with Black Lives Matter saying that we don't really respect what's going on in this country as far as the way that Black people have been treated in this country. And so it goes all the way back, you know, with Kaepernick, if you can remember that, refusing to stand or taking a knee. So a lot of controversy about the Star-Spangled Banner and the lyrics in this poem. Well, Francis Scott Key, he was a prisoner on a British ship, and he was writing about what he saw during the War of 1812. So this is not about the 4th of July. That's America's independence. That's when America told Great Britain, you're not the boss of me anymore, leave us alone. Well, Francis Scott Key, he was writing about what he saw. He saw rockets' red glare. He saw bombs bursting in air. And he wanted to know that is the American flag still up or is it down? Because if the flag is still up, that means the soldiers still fighting. We got a chance. But if the flag is down on the ground, that means like America lost. And even today, if the flag touched the ground, that's considered very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. And in the military, we have to burn that flag when it touches the ground because it's a sign of disrespect. So this poem will later be turned into a song. And that song will become our national anthem. And it's called the Star-Spangled Banner. It was written by a man named Francis Scott Key, and he was just describing what he saw during the War of 1812. Okay, so the War of 1812, it will come to an end. It only lasts about 2 years. A treaty will be signed. It will be called the Treaty of Ghent. The Treaty of Ghent is a way that the two sides were able to officially end the war. You need paperwork to end the war, and that paperwork is the treaty. So Britain agreed to stop this impressment, and they realized that they couldn't interfere with American trade. You can't get on those ships and start searching them. That's not okay. And America gained like wide respect all across the world because they stood up to Britain and they was able to hold their own. See, this is the second time America fought against Great Britain. Now, I wouldn't say that either side won. It was more like considered a tie. But Americans began to have more pride in their country, and the morale increased, and people in America just started feeling good about working together and helping each other. So the War of 1812 comes to an end. Well, I wish everybody would have known that the war had come to an end. Somebody didn't get the message. See, people are fighting, and in the military, for those of you who did not know, I am an Army veteran. I served in the military for over 22 years, and I'm a retired major. When we are given instructions in the military, you follow those instructions until somebody tells you something differently. So General Andrew Jackson, he was fighting, and this battle was called the Battle of New Orleans because that's where it happened, in New Orleans, over there where Louisiana is at. He did not know that the war was over. He did not know that the treaty had been signed like a month ago. See, during this time, people didn't have the kind of electronic and technology, the different devices to communicate easily. You know, you to get a message to somebody, you have to get on a horse and ride the horse. You could, I don't know how far you'd have to go and pass the message along, you know, on a sheet of paper. So it wasn't easy to get messages. And what happened if somebody died as they were going and trying to get the message to the next location? You know, then that could prolong the process of getting the information. So Andrew Jackson, he was a general, and he didn't know that the war was over, so he had his soldiers continue to fight. Unfortunately, you're going to have thousands of soldiers get killed, and it wasn't even necessary because the war was over. But it wasn't Andrew Jackson's fault. So it's not like he's going to catch charges or anything. He didn't know that the war was over. But this is an unfortunate event. It's called the Battle of New Orleans. It happens after the War of 1812 was officially over. All right, so now we're going to talk about our fifth president of the early republic. His name is James Monroe. Now, James Monroe, when he was very young, he fought in the American Revolutionary War. He also helped do the paperwork to negotiate the Louisiana Purchase of 1803 because he was the Secretary of State for Madison. Well, he worked a little bit with Jefferson, but he also was a Secretary of State for Madison. He becomes president number 5. Like Washington, he is also committed to neutrality. He doesn't believe that America needs to get involved in problems and conflicts that are happening in other countries. So this is an interesting fact. Did you know that President Monroe and 2 other presidents died on the 4th of July? Not at the same time, not at the same year, but President Monroe, President Thomas Jefferson, and President John Adams, they all died on the 4th of July. That's kind of crazy. No. All right, so let's continue. Under President James Monroe, America will purchase Florida. Now, Florida did not belong to the Americans. They were not a part of those 13 English colonies. Florida belonged to Spain. Now, Spain had other territories in North America and in South America. That's the Western Hemisphere. But Florida was kind of isolated from the other territories that belonged to Spain. And Florida was concerned because they kind of feel like America got a bad reputation of taking land away from people. So Spain is afraid that America is going to try to take Florida, and they're not going to get anything out of the deal. So there were some negotiations made, and the U.S. Was willing to buy Florida from Spain, and will pay $5 million for that entire area of Florida, and it will become a state. All right, so this will be now the second time that America purchased land. The first was with Jefferson with the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. And then we have James Monroe. He will purchase Florida from Spain. Okay, so we bought land from France, and we also bought land from Spain. Now, while Monroe is president, we're going to enter a period of time that is called the era of good feelings. Good feelings, think about that. Why would people have good feelings? You have good feelings if you're making money. Well, America began to develop nationalism. They began to develop pride in their nation, and the people were making money. The North and South are working together and making money. So people were able to get along very well. They worked together, they traded together, they did business together. The economy was growing, it was getting stronger. So this period of time is known as the era of good feelings. It was so good that the two political parties decided we don't even have anything to argue about anymore. We just gonna have one political party. It's gonna be the Democratic Republicans. That's it. So the group that's called the Federalists fades out, it goes away, and people are thinking alike and they're working together. It's just one political party now called the Democratic Republicans, and America is just developing their patriotism. And this period of time is known as the era of good feeling. It happens under President James Madison. I'm sorry, under James Monroe. Okay, Monroe is happy about the era of good feelings, but he's also concerned. He has some fears that he got to deal with. Um, we have a lot of war that was happening, and that was when Napoleon is fighting a lot against Great Britain. But France and Spain had been allies. They go way back. They've had um, support for each other for a long time, hundreds of years. Now, while Spain was busy helping France fight these wars, Mexico declared their independence from Spain. See, Mexico belonged to Spain, and Spain is all the way over there in Europe. Well, we have what is called El Grito de Dolores. It's the shout of Dolores. This started a 10-year struggle where um, Spanish rule ended in a lot of places in South America, where places were getting their independence because they were former colonies that belonged to Spain. So Mexico will be one of those places that is trying to get their independence from Spain. Now, what President Monroe is afraid of is that once France get finished fighting with like Great Britain, then Spain is going to try to retake those colonies that are in the Western Hemisphere. When I say the Western Hemisphere, I'm talking about North America and South America. Well, if you look on that map, all that on that map that's orange, that belongs to Spain. And some of these places are now saying we are independent. Spain, you're not the boss of us anymore. We're getting our independence. This is going to be a problem for Monroe because he doesn't want for Spain to try to reclaim those colonies and get support from France. That's not going to be good. So what Monroe does is he writes his doctrine. It will be called the Monroe Doctrine. It's going to be written in the year 1823. Now, this Monroe Doctrine is a very serious warning. It's a warning to all European countries. Basically, what James Madison is saying, don't start none, won't be none. He said, you're not going to do no more colonization in these Americas. You're not going to come over here and talk about you're going to start new colonies. No. He said, now, you had some colonies. We won't bother those colonies, but the ones that got their independence, the one that says you're not the boss of them anymore, leave those Latino people alone. Leave them alone. He said, if you come over here, then you threatening us. You threatening our safety. You threatening our peace. And he said, we can't have that. See, now, Monroe believes in neutrality. He said, we're not going to interfere with the colonies that you already established in America, but you're not going to start no new ones. And you just need to leave us alone and leave those Latino people alone, the one who already got their independence from you. Leave them alone. This was the warning. It's called the Monroe Doctrine. He says, stay out. Stay out of the Western Hemisphere. Don't come over here. Start a mess. So the Monroe Doctrine, again, it's a very serious warning to stay out of the Western Hemisphere. Do not come into North America and South America talking about you're going to start some new colonies. He talking to France, he talking to Britain, he talking to Spain, he talking to European countries saying that the Americas, North America and South America, they're off limits. So that was the Monroe Doctrine. Today I talked about the different presidents of the early republic. We learned some information about Jefferson, and we talked about Madison, Monroe. We talked a little bit about Adams, and earlier we talked about Washington. So I want to thank you for joining me today. I want to encourage you to watch the next video as we continue to learn about U.S. history from the 13 original English colonies all the way to settling the Western frontier after the Civil War and Reconstruction. Again, I want you to have a great day, and why don't you just make it a great day? We'll see you guys. Bye.